All right, there's some magic in this system, and that's the magic of the right forearm. Again, it's one of these things that seems to have been just overlooked by the world of golf, and yet it's critically important. It's been used by most of the great players. The right arm is what lifts and lowers the left arm. It's also what cocks and uncocks the left wrist. Well, certainly it uncocks and cocks the left wrist of the hitter, and its motion, which is identical for both hitting and swinging, for the swinger allows centrifugal force to cock and uncock the left wrist. So this right forearm action that is monitored through the bending and straightening of the right elbow is absolutely mission critical to a sound golf stroke. Now, how do you practice that? Well, one way is just to do as I've just done, grasp your left wrist with your right hand and just simply with your body in a fixed position. In other words, where it's going to be at impact, weight on your left foot, hips slightly cleared out, head centered this way. Then just make this motion. Lift and lower your left arm with your bending right arm. Most people do this kind of stuff. They leave their arms frozen and they rock and they block. Or they wheel their shoulders in this way. Again, the elbow is doing nothing. And the action we're looking for is the body, the hand and arm to swing up in a very responsive manner this way, just as you would do if you were winding up to throw a ball. So practice that first without a club, then with the club. Brush the ground. Get in this fixed position. Let the bending elbow take up the left arm, and also when you reach a certain point, it will cock the left wrist. Uncocking, and then allow centrifugal force to uncock it as a swinger, or allow your right arm drive against the left hand thumb and the heel of the right hand transmitting that thrust. Allow that to straighten, uncock the left wrist, and roll the left hand for hitting. So you practice it from fixed, and you hit the most delightful little shots, practicing the magic of your right forearm. You've zeroed out your pivot, and you simply bend and straighten your right arm. If you're hitting, bend and straighten. If you're swinging, go ahead and let a little body momentum come in and take that left arm through. There's one more. This is a wonderful one, and it gives you the feel of the whole right forearm pickup too. Pickup, yes, the club is picked up, but it's picked up on plane, not off plane, and it's certainly not drug around under the plane. Use your right wrist to hold your left wrist and stretch your left arm. One thing, by moving your hand from here, where it normally is in the grip, below the left to here, it gives you a lot of right arm, right? And you can really see how that stretching is happening. Take it up with this right arm into here. And you're going to feel like there's not much going on in that. And there's not, because you're not doing all this stuff, you know, and you're not wrapping it around in here. You're simply taking, let's do it on this plane. Can you do this? Can you do this? Well, if you can do that, you can do this. And you keep those feet and knees as anchors. You keep your head between your feet, and you take that left arm up with the right, just like that. Stretch, and then start down. Come on out into here. Keep it stretched. That is one of the best drills you will ever learn to do. You know, golf is a tough game for all of us, and it's really maddening for athletes who have been successful as athletes their entire career. They have always been able to fire that baseball. They have always been able to fire that football. They've always been able to shoot those hoops. And in every one of those motions I just made, the right wrist is flattening as the right arm is straightening. Kaboom, boom, boom. And now all of a sudden we're in a game where we've got to straighten the right arm without flattening the right wrist. And nobody told the right wrist. That's the tough thing. You have to be able to straighten your arm without flattening your wrist. Because if that wrist flattens, then the left wrist bends. And that, of course, is the great disruptor of everything. So for the left wrist to stay flat, the right wrist must stay bent. So you have to learn to do exactly that. First, without a club. Just bend your right wrist back, learn to straighten it. Learn to straighten it. Learn to straighten it. Learn to straighten it. Put a lot of bend in it. That'll be the case if you have impact well forward in your stance. Learn to straighten it. Learn to straighten it. Put a little right wrist bend in it, because that's what's going to be the case with the ball position well back. Learn to straighten it. Learn to straighten it. In other words, you freeze your impact fixed degree of bend. The amount of bend you're going to have at impact, you freeze that. That right wrist is now motionless. It is frozen. It is frozen in its horizontal condition. See, it's frozen there. And it's frozen in that it can't cock and uncock. It simply can turn and roll. That's all this right wrist does. It turns and it rolls. Once that impact degree of bend is established, and that happens at the top, the only thing it does is rotate down, staying under the direction of the flat left wrist. So, and it doesn't have to be stiff and tense. It can be easy, not soft, but easy. It's like it's in a cast. You don't have to have a stressed right wrist if it's in a cast. It's inert. It's unstressed. It floats down from the top, especially for hitters. All they've got past this shoulder acceleration is a driving right triceps and elbow. That's all they've got, and they can't let that go too soon. So they've got to come, and they're doing it from a shorter backstroke. So they have to learn to be still at the top, float it down, and then drive without ever letting that right wrist flatten. So the straightening of the right arm without flattening the right wrist is a key. Hitter or swinger, the swinger's coming in, centrifugal force wants to pull that left arm into a straight line, that flat left wrist. But if this happens, if you have an overacceleration, and it does in 90% of the golf swings out there, then that left wrist bends, right wrist flattens. Bad guy. Here. So even the swinger is much benefited by learning to keep that right wrist bent as the right arm straightens. Even though centrifugal force is driving the club, not right arm power, its right arm is still in action, and it still has to act correctly.